the most recent hack, the Wormhole hack, actually Jump Crypto, which is like a huge crypto trading firm, came in and basically like covered all of those losses. They covered like $250 million worth of losses, right? Because like Wormhole is backed by reputable backers or used by reputable people. And so like I think this like is a little bit of like how you should diligence like even what kind of crypto contracts and products you want to interact with. It's like it should, number one, first and foremost, be backed by or be done by reputable players.
So we basically traced out how in this interoperable, this bridge protocol where the Wormhole protocol is bridging between Ethereum and Solana, and there was a bug in the underlying smart contract that a hacker exploited and managed to take away $250 million. I'm going to kind of repackage what you said here because I think it's such an important point. I want to say it twice. First off, I actually almost used the Wormhole bridge myself. I'm playing around on Solana and I was like, oh, cool, I want to put some Ether over there. I didn't end up using Wormhole, but I almost did. And part of my consideration here was, well, you know, there's actually a little bit of a network effect or like a reason why large protocols are maybe more secure, and it's because they have known backers behind them. So in the Wormhole case, it's backed by Jump Trading. It's backed by a few other venture investors. It's got a lot of institutional support behind it, if you will. And so I was like, well, if it does get hacked, there's a legitimate chance that these big players are going to be incentivized to cover it and make it whole. If I used some smaller, lesser known bridge, maybe some, you know, earlier shop, there's a bit more risk there because they don't necessarily have institutional backing. And if something does go wrong, well, maybe nobody's left to hold the bag, right? Or cover your losses. What gives me strength though, is this Wormhole hack, you know, it's one of actually many examples. Now they're not that frequent. I don't want to scare people, but I want to note that in all the cases where hacks have happened that are outside of your control, consumers have generally not been left holding the bag. It's happened a couple times, but in the vast majority of cases, the companies involved will end up covering the losses, which I think is indicative of the crypto industry coming together in a sort of self-aligned way and making sure that consumers are not going to get impacted by this because it's such an important thing. We need consumer protection. We need people to feel good about participating in these new, novel, innovative things. And that's been a thing. We actually haven't seen losses impact consumers.
So this is maybe a more crypto specific thing, but there have been cases where hackers have gotten away with the money and ended up returning it because if you remember, everything you do on crypto is logged on chain, right? So like through literal paper trails that you actually cannot cover because everything is done logged on the blockchain, people have actually figured out like who the hackers are and then they'll like send notes to it. And like one of the examples, and I don't remember even like which hack this was, but do you know what I'm talking about? There was like,
I do remember
people
this.
like, okay, so people figured out like who the hacker was and like down to like where they lived. And there's this like, I don't know, like this like prime, terrorist negotiation thing, which is that like you send food over to their house. And so actually this group of people like sent miso soup to this hacker's house. And, you know, basically as like we know you did it. Like I think on the note, it was like, please return the funds, like on the like receipt from the restaurant. And it ended up getting returned.
This is going to be a wild true crime podcast someday of like, oh, check out this story. These, you know, bleeding edge crypto hackers managed to exploit a bug in a protocol and walk away with millions of dollars. But then guess what? Everything on the blockchain is transparent. And these vigilante investigators looked on the blockchain and sleuthed around. And guess what? They found the guy's house and sent him DoorDash soup, right? They DoorDashed
Threatened
soup.
by way of miso soup.
Yeah. And said, yo, we know who you are. Just ... Like maybe you should return the funds. And guess what? The hacker returned the funds. Yeah. That's actually relatively common because that's not the only story. This happens actually again and again. And so interesting here that Jump Trading is covering losses on Wormhole as of the time we're talking about this. But I also wonder if the attacker is going to actually try to walk away with $250 million because that's a lot of money to try to launder through the blockchain and avoid all the internet sleuths, right? Or the companies in this case that are looking at the blockchain very carefully and investigating this.
Yeah. And I really wouldn't like underestimate the wisdom of the crowd in these scenarios. Like, I don't know if this is like a joke among your friends, but like among my girlfriends, at least, we have this joke where like, you're trying to like, you meet someone, like maybe you're whatever, like you download a dating app, you're trying to figure out something about this person you're going on a date with. And all you have to go off is like a first name. And like, there's this joke among at least of my girlfriends that like, all I need is a first name and I can find everything down to their address and social and everything because, there's just so much data out there. So like, but this is even more so in on-chain transactions because everything was literally done on the blockchain and there is proof of every transaction you make.
Yep. This is the new 21st century of like cops and robbers. I love it. It's great.
Yeah.